everyone. You'll be live in 10 seconds or 5 seconds. Just loading. Okay, yes, you're live.
Hello, everyone. And first, I would like to wish you all a very happy Muslim New Year. Today, we were here to bring you the third virtual TAF Leadership Academy session. And as you know, we had two previously, and today we have another one. And in another 2 weeks, inshallah, we'll have another one with Olidiba Wada, and that one will be aired later in our subsequent programs. But today we will be talking about honesty as a core value of leadership. And we have Mr. Lamin Manjang, CEO of Standard Chartered Bank. But TAF would read his resume to you to tell you more about him before we start the program. Hello, TAF. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hi, Fatu. And hello, our honorable speaker or lecturer, Mr. Lamin Manjang, our fellows, the TAFLA fellows, and all our listeners, both on Zoom and Facebook Live. Let me take this opportunity to wish you a very happy New Year, a Muslim New Year. I think it's the year 1440. And we pray that when we get up tomorrow, coronavirus will disappear with the last year. Let's hope and pray that corona disappears. So without much ado, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to start by welcoming Mr. Lamin Manjang, who's the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank in Nigeria and West Africa, for taking his time and giving us the honor and privilege to deliver this lecture today. As Fatu said, he's going to speak on honesty, which I think is a very important value in leadership. So let me just start by reading his resume, his short resume. He is very modest by giving me a very short resume, but I'm sure as we are as Gambians, he could have had a much longer and detailed resume. So Mr. Lamin Manjang is the CEO of Standard Chartered Bank Nigeria and the regional CEO for West Africa. In his 21 years of banking experience, he has been CEO of Standard Chartered Bank in Sierra Leone, Uganda, Oman, and Kenya, where he has led a successful transformation agenda in these markets. Oh, that's it. They're popping up the bio, but I'll just continue reading it. Lamin is very passionate about client experience, talent, development, and positively impacting the wider community. Prior to joining Standard Chartered Bank, he was the managing director of Gambia International Airlines for 4 years and led the turnaround strategy of the airline. Lamin has a bachelor's degree in business administration from the International Islamic University in Malaysia, a master's in business administration from the University of Malaysia, and is also an associate member of the Chartered Institute of Management Accountants. So Lamin, that's your brief bio. What we do is we just, let you take the floor and start your lecture. And please feel free. There's no time limit. There's no control. It's your day. We want you to really talk to these young men and women, about honesty as a core value in leadership. So Lamin, you're welcome.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Mustafa, and good evening to all the listeners. Let me also use the opportunity to wish you all a happy Muslim New Year. It's a great honor for me to be invited to be a guest speaker at today's forum, and I really look forward to this opportunity. I've been asked to talk about a very important subject, which is honesty. However, I decided to widen it slightly so that it covers a wider area, which is character. And hence, I will have an opportunity to go through that with you. But before I start, I think I would like to, first of all, thank Mustafa Njai and the TAF Leadership Academy for this very noble initiative, an initiative of identifying a group of Gambian youth, giving them the opportunity for training, for having a strong moral foundation. Because indeed, this is what is the bedrock for any society to develop: education and a strong moral foundation. So I really want to thank Mustafa and the TAF Leadership Academy for this great initiative. I think the idea behind this is really to have a critical mass of like-minded people. Because for any society to transform, for any change to take place and to be sustained, you need a critical mass. And I think what TAF and his team are doing is really laying a very strong foundation for that transformation to take place. Obviously, the issue of role models is one that is very important. When we were growing up, I remember we used to have people that we looked up to. And that inspired us, that made us want to work hard, want to study, want to do our best so that we can be like our role models, or achieve similar standards as our role models. So I think whatever is being done by TAF and his team is really very, very commendable. I've been fortunate to have as my predecessors, the previous speakers in this series for 2020, two very good friends. Dr. Karamo Sonko actually happens to be my former schoolmate. We were all in St. Augustine's High School together. And indeed, he was the head boy of the school from 81 to 82. And I had the good fortune of taking over the head boyship from him from 82 to 83. Similarly, the next speaker, Usain Ngom, also is a good friend and also a classmate. We were also in St. Augustine High School together. So I think I feel privileged that I am in good company in terms of also contributing my quota towards helping to mold these young people. Before I go into the subject itself, obviously there's something that all of us are very much aware of, very acutely aware of, and actually dealing with on a daily basis, and that is COVID-19. And I just wanted to maybe spend a few minutes to talk about COVID-19 and to show that COVID-19 is real. It is actually a deadly virus that is with us, and it is important that we take it seriously. As we speak today, we have over 24.9 million confirmed cases, so nearly 25 million confirmed cases globally. We have 841,000 people who have died since this COVID-19 pandemic started. That is an astronomically high number of deaths. Now, back home in Gambia, we have 2,700 confirmed cases and 96 confirmed dead. So this is a reality that we have to confront. Now, the message that I wanted to share is that the countries that were able to take decisive action and swift action have been able to contain the spread of the virus. I've given the example of China, South Korea, New Zealand. The number of confirmed deaths in China is only 4,634. The number of confirmed deaths in New Zealand is 22. The number of confirmed deaths in South Korea is 321. However, the countries that were slow to act, such as the United States, currently they have over 6 million cases and over 185,000 dead. This is really a demonstration of how important it is to take this seriously and to take the right measures. Now, what are those right measures for us in Gambia? I think there are three which are very critical, ones that the WHO has been able to pronounce. The first one is the wearing of face mask, especially if you are in a public place or you are in close proximity with other people. The second one is to observe social distancing. Keep a minimum distance between you and the next person. And of course, the third one is to wash your hands regularly, because the virus is transmitted through the openings in the face, whether it's the eyes, the nose, the mouth, etc. So by washing your hands, you minimize the chance of the virus spreading. So I thought, given really where we are, particularly as Gambia was one of the countries that had very low numbers until fairly recently, and then we saw a very sharp increase, I thought it is important that I share this message with everybody so that we can also remind ourselves and remind our friends, our families, our neighbors, and everybody that this COVID is real, and if we take the right measures, we can actually contain its spread. Now, turning to the subject matter, as I said, I was asked to talk about honesty. And I think honesty is important, but I think honesty is part of a broader subject matter of character. And I thought, really, if I talk about character, it would encompass honesty and a few other aspects that I think are important. I remember many years ago, I read this quotation and it stuck with me. And it's basically that when money is lost, something is lost. When health is lost, a great deal is lost. But when character is lost, all is lost. So this is the importance of character, good character. Because when you lose money, fine, money can be lost, money can be gained. When you lose health, health can be lost, health can be gained. But when you lose character and you do not do anything to reform, to change, then really all is lost. And I think that is why I thought I should share my thoughts around this important subject of character with the TAF Academy fellows and the wider audience. Now, personal character, I wanted to show that the home is actually the first and the most important school of character. All of us grew in homes, and I'm sure we can all recall the home training that we had when we were growing up. These lessons stick with us throughout our life as we go through life's journey. They say that manners makes the man. Some say mind makes the man. But I think in reality, it is home that makes the man. Because it is home that manners are taught. It is home that the mind is shaped. In our community, in our society, when somebody displays bad manners, it actually reflects badly on him and on the home that he comes from. So people would say, but is this individual not from this home? How could he be behaving this way? So this is where home training is very important in terms of character formation. I also wanted to emphasize that women are the bedrock of society. Because in the home, yes, you do have a father, you have a mother, and both play an important role in shaping the character, in influencing the character. But I dare say the mother has a very important role, a far more important role indeed, in terms of shaping character and influencing how one turns out. The other aspect of character, personal character, which I wanted to touch on, is companionship. Who do you go with? Who do you associate with? You know, there is this famous saying, I'm sure we all have heard it many times. Show me your friends, and I will show you who you are. Tell me whom you admire and the company that you keep, and I will tell you who you are. I think it's important that as young men, as you're growing up, that you associate yourself with the right company. The advantage of being with the right company is that even if you are not quite like them, if it is good company, they can influence you in positive ways. I give the example of somebody who spends time in a perfume shop, always. Now, even if you do not buy perfume, even if you do not touch the perfume, the mere fact that you are in that shop always, what happens? Even when you leave that place, some of that scent sort of goes with you. And that is really where good company, the benefit of good company shows. And similarly, if you are in bad company, let's say if you are in a place which is filthy, which is smelly, even if you don't touch that filth, but the mere fact that you are constantly in that environment, even if you go out of that environment, the smell goes with you. And therefore, I think it is important that we learn to keep good company. Choose the friends that you go with so that they can influence you positively and you can influence them positively. The other aspect which I wanted to touch on in terms of personal character is hard work, the habit of hard work. Whatever you do, in whatever profession you find yourself, you should work hard. You should be known as somebody who works hard, who works diligently, and who delivers what he promises. Hard work is very good in terms of building somebody's character. Avoid laziness and procrastination. When you are lazy, when you do not do things on time, when you procrastinate, this may give you a temporary relief and happiness because you're enjoying. You're not working hard, you're enjoying. You appear to be enjoying. But I can assure you that it has long-term damage. So hence, the advice that wherever you find yourself, be somebody that is known as a hard worker, somebody who applies himself and who ensures that he delivers whatever he is asked to do. Then I want to touch on another aspect of character, and that is moral courage. Moral courage. Very, very, very important. And I have decided to break it down into 4 aspects where one needs to show moral courage or demonstrate it. The first one is to stand up for justice. We all know that in our society, in the world today, there are injustices that are perpetrated. When you demonstrate moral courage is when you stand up and say that what is going on is wrong. We know some of the big challenges that we have faced in our lifetime. One was obviously the civil rights movement in the US, when there was segregation and Black people did not have equal rights, could not even vote. And this was injustice. But we had the likes of Martin Luther King and fellow leaders who stood up and said, this is not just, and therefore we should stand against it, we should fight it so that we achieve justice. Similarly, in South Africa, we saw when apartheid was the order of the day, separation of Blacks and whites and favoring whites over Blacks. This was injustice. Again, we saw the likes of Mandela and all the other leaders, both Black and white, who stood up for justice. So my advice is we should all summon the moral courage to stand for justice, to stand up for justice wherever we see injustice. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, when you see something wrong, you should try and change it with your hands. If you cannot do that, then you should change it with your tongue. Speak against it. And if you cannot do that, then at least hate it in your heart that this is wrong and it should not be. The other area in terms of moral courage, which I want to talk about, is to speak the truth. Now, in the world that we live in today, truth is under attack. We are seeing very dangerous phenomenon where facts are not accepted. I was actually shocked when I heard a very senior official in the US talk about alternative facts, that there are alternative facts. We all know that facts are facts. There cannot be alternative facts. But we are living in a world today, some call it the post-truth wall, where people can come up with their own facts. And there's no distinguishing between truth and falsehood. Truth is what you make it to be. Now, somebody said that everybody is entitled to their opinion, but nobody is entitled to their own facts. We should have the moral courage to recognize truth and to speak the truth when it matters. The other aspect of moral courage, which I wanted to touch on, is honesty. To be honest, to have an honest living in your dealings with other people, to display the characteristic of honesty so that people can trust you. When you say something, they can say, yes, we believe what this person is saying because he's an honest person. I think honesty is a virtue. It's a very important character that we need in our society today. Please ensure that you are honest in all that you do. The old adage that honesty is the best policy still applies. It has not gone away. Then the last aspect of moral courage, which I wanted to touch on, is the ability to resist temptation. That takes courage. And of course, to have self-discipline. When I talk about resisting temptation, often there's a lot of peer pressure. You find that others are doing certain things and getting away with it, and you feel tempted. That look, why not me? Why should I not also go along and do it? It takes moral courage to resist that temptation. And also the aspect of self-discipline, closely linked to that. The ability to control yourself. Somebody said, discipline is defined as doing what needs to be done, whether you feel like doing it or not. That is discipline. You know that I should do this. It is very tempting to relax or to go along with others who are not doing their part. But discipline means saying that, look, even if I am not in the mood, but because this is the right thing to do, I will go ahead and do it. I think these aspects of moral courage are absolutely important in building your personal character. Now, I want to shift gears slightly and go into character in the public service. And later on, I will talk about character in the business world. Because many of you will end up either working in the public service or in the private sector. And I think it's important that I deal with this aspect because it will be very critical in terms of your life journey. Public office. Public office comes with a great deal of trust and responsibility. When we define public office, these are offices where society has needs that can best be met through the public service. So whether it's the public service itself as we know it, whether it's the public enterprises, whether it's politics, the National Assembly, all of those really come into the definition of public service. And those who venture into public service should do so out of a sense of duty. There is satisfaction in knowing that you have contributed to the well-being of your society. Whether you are a teacher in a public school, whether you are a health worker in a public health facility, there is that satisfaction that you are contributing to the wider society. Now, the reality is that the pay and the remuneration in the public service is not necessarily very high. That is the reality. Generally, by the way, there are countries where the public service pay is almost as good as that of the private sector. Singapore is one example of that. But by and large, let's just take it that the public service pay is not as high as the private sector. So why would somebody stay in the public service? It must be out of a sense of duty, out of the satisfaction that you get from touching lives, from transforming a society. But when you are in the public service, sometimes you have enormous resources at your disposal. And it is important that you keep in mind that these resources belong to the public, not to you as an individual. Because the pay is not as attractive, there is a temptation for you to then use the public purse to enrich yourself. And that is fatal in terms of character. We have some notions that I think should be discredited and disowned. One is this notion of the fruits of office. So if you are in a public office, the benefits that you get through corrupt practices is called the fruits of office. And there's this famous saying, I don't know how true it is, but it is attributed to Siaka Stevens, former president of Sierra Leone, who allegedly said that where you tie the cow, that is where it eats. And this really is a notion that I think is absolutely dangerous, because it leads people to treat public funds, public resources as their personal property. And you go on to amass a great deal of wealth through those means. If you want to be wealthy, there are other avenues. Obviously, the private sector creates avenues for you to be wealthy, to be rich. I'm sure you've all heard of Jeff Bezos, the founder of Amazon. Today, he's actually the richest man in the world. He has actually now hit $200 billion in terms of his net worth. That's the highest ever, certainly in our modern times. And it's not public resources that he's using. He's actually using his ingenuity, his ability to meet the needs of millions of consumers. And as a result, he has benefited as an individual in terms of his wealth. But really, for a public servant to feel that the way to get wealthy is to reap those fruits of the office is very, very unfortunate. And like I said, it should be disowned. And what we need really in this area is to have strong institutions with strong governance standards, such that anybody who tries to exhibit those kind of behaviors can be ousted. He can be identified and ousted from that position of public responsibility. Now, let me turn to character in business, because like I said, some of you might end up going into the private sector, in the business world. I think integrity is absolutely critical in terms of your success in the private sector and in the business world. lack of integrity can be actually very, very catastrophic. I don't know whether some of you, I'm sure some of you are quite young and you wouldn't recall, but one of the largest bankruptcies in US history in 2001 was a company called Enron. Now, Enron was very successful. It was one of the blue chip companies, was growing very rapidly. Shareholders were very happy. So how did a company like that come crashing down? It was due to lack of integrity at the leadership level. The leaders in Enron decided to play accounting tricks so that they were hiding the true indebtedness of the company through special purpose vehicles, etc. And of course, their auditors at the time, Arthur Andersen, did not do their job properly in terms of identifying these accounting frauds. And it led to Enron collapsing. As I said, at the time, it was the largest bankruptcy in US history. And Arthur Andersen, which incidentally happened to be among the big 5 auditing firms at that time, in 2001, also went out of business. Similarly, WorldCom was another very large bankruptcy, which happened in 2002. And more recently, just this year, you have Wirecard in Germany, another company that went bankrupt, again, because of lack of integrity and the greed that was demonstrated by its leadership. But lack of integrity cuts across. It's not just at the very top of the organization. It can also be at the middle level, at the lower levels as well. I gave an example of Barings Bank. Barings was actually the oldest merchant bank at the time, before it collapsed in 1995. And it was because of the misconduct of a trader. So somebody in the middle sort of management level decided to take positions, trading positions that were not authorized. And of course, was hiding the losses that he was making in those positions in terms of accounting fraud. Again, at the time, there was a loss of nearly $1.4 billion, which was more than the capital of Barings Bank at the time. And the bank went under, it collapsed. So integrity is important. Some of you will become business leaders in the future. Of course, some of you would start from the lower rungs and then climb through the ladder, through the middle management cadre before you reach the very top. It's important that you demonstrate and live by the integrity code in whatever you do. Now, many companies have what are called values that they espouse, and they want all their employees to live by those values. There's also a code of conduct. The code of conduct defines the parameters, the guidelines of how you should behave if you are an employee of this company. We have, as part of the code of conduct, things like a gift and entertainment policy. Now, maybe I should just touch briefly on this gift and entertainment policy. The dividing line between a gift and a bribe is very thin. And hence why you have a gift and entertainment policy, so that if somebody comes and says, I am giving you a gift, if it is, a small amount, it's a token, a diary, a pen, things like that, those don't really, influence anybody's decision making. But if you're in a position of responsibility and somebody comes and gives you a very expensive gift, say a Rolex watch costing $6,000, or somebody comes and gives you a car, obviously that is excessive. Why would they do that? And hence, in many companies, we have a gift and entertainment policy, which requires that first you do not accept those kind of gifts. But even should you accept, perhaps because of norms or whatever, you must declare it. So there is what is called a gift and entertainment register, where the gift is logged in and surrendered, so that it's not your personal property. Now, I know that in the public service, sometimes these gifts are really a challenge, because people come and they give very, very astronomical amounts or items as gifts, and it really can lead to conflict of interest and compromising you. I remember when I was managing director of Gambia International Airlines many years ago, in the mid-90s, there was one old man, very well-meaning. So he came to my office, and we exchanged pleasantries, we talked, and he gave me what he considered to be very good advice. So he told me that in Wolof, Lamin, gis nga yëfi bribery ak corruption ak yooyu noonu baaxut, man sax bugguma ko, wante nag nit ki su la mayee jëlal. Now, literally what that meant was, bribery and corruption are bad, but if somebody gives you a gift, you should take it. Now that obviously is wrong, because I think when you take those gifts, they can actually compromise your ability to make objective and rational decisions. Somebody who has given you such gifts sometimes expects a favor in return. As they say, one good turn deserves another. So code of conduct is very important. As you go into the corporate world, you would be exposed to that, and it would be very important that you live by this code. I also wanted to touch on something which I thought it's important, because sometimes you might come across it. And these are Ponzi schemes. I don't know whether any of you have heard of the word Ponzi scheme before, but essentially what happens in Ponzi schemes is that somebody makes you an offer that you pay a certain amount of money, or you make an investment in a certain fund, and you are guaranteed a certain return, and a return that typically is far in excess of what is normal. One of the largest Ponzi schemes, in fact, the largest at the time, was one that was run by somebody called Bernie Madoff in the US. Bernie Madoff ran a Ponzi scheme, At the time that his scheme was exposed and it collapsed in 2008, the amount that was lost was $64 billion. That was why it was called the largest Ponzi scheme at the time. And how a Ponzi scheme works, like I said, is you are promised returns that are really very, very high and very, very abnormal. One such scheme that I've heard about is things like you pay, say, $500 into a fund, and you are guaranteed, $3,500 every month in perpetuity. I mean, that is too good to be true. So really, my advice to you is beware of Ponzi schemes. If something is too good to be true, it probably is, and you should walk away from it. The next subject I wanted to touch on is corruption. Corruption is a great deterrent to economic development and growth. In many countries around the world, certainly in Africa, and even back home in Gambia. Corruption is a drain on African resources, and it really impedes the development of the country. And corruption can come in various forms. Obviously, there is the mega corruption, the big corruption scandals that I'm sure we all see and hear about, involving millions of dollars. And of course, there is the smaller corruption, the taking a small bribe here, and kickbacks, etc. Corruption is deadly because it really impedes progress and development of a country. And what is even more, what is sad and what is really detrimental is when this affects human lives. So for instance, when you have corruption in terms of people taking away medicine, say for instance in the public sector, when somebody goes and needs to be treated and there is no medicine, and it's because somebody has decided to take that medicine for their personal interest. This has an impact on human lives. So like I said, corruption is deadly. It comes in various shapes and forms, whether it's large corruption, small corruption, and you should shun it. As you go into the world, as young men and women, make sure that you do not participate in that corruption sphere, that you actually play an active role in combating it, because that is how we can get our countries, our economies to actually grow in a sustainable manner. I wanted to also share some success stories of countries that decided to deal with corruption decisively. And I'm sure we have all heard of these two countries. The reason I chose them is because they are also small countries, like our country, and they have demonstrated what sound leadership and fighting corruption can achieve within a very short space of time. So Singapore, for instance, Singapore gained independence in 1965. And I'm sure you all know the 60s was the era when many countries were granted independence, from Ghana in 57 right through to Gambia in '65. Now, when Singapore gained independence, it was a third world country by any measure that you can think of. And in fact, it was no better than many African countries at a similar stage of gaining independence. But fast forward 25 years from the time it gained independence, 1965, Singapore was transformed from a third world to a first world country. And that was achieved through hard work, through focus, through discipline, and through combating corruption. I was listening to a speech by one of the Singapore ministers, and he was trying to show how Singapore was able to fight corruption. And he said, the trick to fight corruption, the strategy to fight corruption is to start from the very top. He quoted an example just after independence, when Singapore was still trying to develop, and there was this cabinet minister who was taken on a holiday by a businessman. Now, I'm sure this would be seen as normal in many countries. A private businessman decides that he will take you on a holiday, all expenses paid. Now, when this cabinet minister came back, and it was realized that this is what happened, he was sacked and he was thrown into jail. Now, the lesson there is that if at the very top, somebody can be thrown into jail for an act like that, of accepting a gift from a businessman, it sends a very, very powerful signal all the way down that this kind of behavior is not accepted. Of course, the good thing is that when there is less corruption, the pie grows bigger and bigger, and everybody gets to benefit. But when there is corruption and it is endemic, the pie gets smaller and smaller. So everybody is just scrambling to get a piece of a shrinking pie. Now, somebody might say, well, that's Singapore, that's Asia, and so on. So I thought we can come closer home and use the example of Rwanda. I'm sure you are all familiar with the story of Rwanda and how in 1994, the country went through a genocide, nearly 800,000 people killed within a space of 3 months. The country completely devastated. Now, the leadership at the time, once they took over and managed to stop the genocide, could have easily fallen into the trap of a begging nation, always using the excuse of the genocide, basically become a failed state, and one that basically says, oh, the reason why we are poor is because of genocide. So that story just sort of becomes the narrative throughout. But the leadership said, okay, the genocide has happened, fine, it's happened. But how do we move forward? How do we draw a line, and how do we move forward collectively so that we can help to transform and develop our country? And again, 25 years, that is what it took to transform Rwanda from a country that went through genocide to one that today, by any metric that you can measure, is actually a success story in Africa, whether it's their health indicators, whether it's their education indicators, whether it's their infrastructure, their governance, their ranking in the Transparency International Corruption Index. So many measures. The World Bank doing ease of doing business. All of those measures, by any measure, Rwanda has demonstrated what you can achieve within a very short period of 25 years. So I thought that is something that we should also keep in mind, that change can happen, transformation can happen. It has happened before, but it takes character. It takes good character and good leadership to be able to ensure that this change takes place. In conclusion, I would just like to say that having good character can shape your life, and indeed, it can help you to have a positive impact on the wider community. Character obviously is shaped by a number of factors. We have the home training that I mentioned. We have the school environment. I'm sure many of you, when you go through school, the teachers that you meet, the kind of values that you embrace in school, they stay with you. And, this helped in terms of shaping your character. And of course, the wider society, as you go into the wider society, also, it has an influence on you. And really, it's to conclude by saying that for any nation to develop successfully, people must really embrace the values of honesty, of integrity, of hard work, all of those values, trustworthiness, which really help any society to transform for the better for all its citizens. That's it from me. Thank you very much once again to Mustafa and the TAF Leadership Academy. As I said, this is a very, very laudable initiative. I hope I've been able to share my thoughts, my perspectives about the importance of good character and how you young men and women, once you go out into the real world, into the business world, into the public service, your character, your focus, your vision will help to transform our society. Thank you very much.
Wow,
Well,
wow.
that was interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Manjang. And everything you said here is very important and very timely. And I like when you said we should garner the moral courage to stand up for what is right. I think this is very important for people to be able to be honest to ourselves and also tell the truth, have discipline and resist temptation. And just going by the comments right here, there are people that you worked with at both Standard Chartered Bank and Gambia International Airways. They're writing very, very, very good comments about how it was like working with you. So I would also take this opportunity to say congratulations, because you did great right there. Some of the comments they're posting on here, oh, wow, they're really nice comments. So TAF, I think we, what do we do now? Take questions, or do you have anything to add to what he just said?
No, I can't add anything on. Let me just go straight. Let me just go straight to the questions, because there are a few questions that came in, and then maybe I will sum up at the end. So I'll start with somebody who says whether, Mr. Manjang, you do consider honesty as something personal and an act than public. Personal or something that is public?
Okay, obviously honesty is personal. I think every individual needs to exhibit the virtue of honesty, which is what I said, that, when people deal with you, honesty is one of the best assets that you can have. You might not have possessions, but if you're honest, somebody can just, based on honesty, give you something, out of just trust, and say, look, I will give you these goods, you go and sell them, and then bring back my money. And it's because of your honesty. So that is the capital that you have. So I think honesty is definitely something that is personal, and one should imbibe it.
Great. Another one says, people can be very honest before assuming public office. Do you think that poverty is catastrophic to purse honesty?
Okay, I think the issue of honesty and public office, like I said, public office is a calling, it's a duty. When you go into public office, it should be out of a sense of duty that you are contributing to the wider society. Now, if you are poor and you believe that that public office is what should make you rich, obviously you have gone there for the wrong reasons. And I think this is where people should make a choice. And that's why I want to, advise the young men and women of the TAF Leadership Academy. If making money, becoming like Mustafa Njai is your ambition in life, then certainly do what Mustafa Njai has done. Go into the private sector, offer a good, a service that the public wants to buy, consumers want to buy, and the more they buy, of course, the more wealth that you make. So that's how Facebook, Amazon, Google, all these companies that their founders are billionaires, but nobody is challenging them for their wealth because they've earned it because of the contribution that they are making as a result of the businesses that they have started. So there's nothing wrong with that. But if you are poor and you feel that going into public office and then become a millionaire or a billionaire out of that public office, and you call it the fruits of the office, that is clearly wrong. And I would advise people, you young men and women, against that.
Great. Another question I think comes from somebody who's elderly from Nigeria. And he says, how can honesty be restored in our society, especially amongst younger generation? He says, as agreed, we older generation have failed them, but how do we move forward?
Okay, I think how honesty can be restored is just like what you are doing, Mustafa, is really showing that, let people have good role models. You see, the thing is, the dishonest people like to, or the corrupt people like to show that everybody else is corrupt, because that's how you sort of justify it to yourself. Or everybody wants money. I mean, he's just talking, but give him a chance. He will do exactly the same. I think it's important that one shows that not everybody is corrupt, and there are many examples of public servants who live very honest lives, committed to their calling. And I think it's important that those role models get highlighted, they get exposed to young men so that they can actually see that there is an alternative path to one where people give up, and which is really what the corrupt people want, is to make it appear as if that is the norm, that is really, there's no other choice. So I think it's important that people get exposed to the right leaders and the right behaviors. But like I said, we are all, some of you are going to be parents very soon. You'll get married, you'll have homes. It's important that the home training, that you instill the right values. I mean, there are certain things that certain people will not do, and it's just because of that home training. I mean, you think and say, how can I do this? How will my family name be seen if I am, my name is associated with this kind of scandal or this kind of bad behavior? So I think it's important that, that home training is really strong, that the school system, unfortunately, this is where, we have also failed in some cases where schools used to be places where you look up to your teacher. The teacher was a role model. They instilled certain values in you. But when even at that stage, people do not live by those values, then children get the wrong example. So we need to ensure that the school system, we have good teachers, they instill good values in our children. And when you go into the organizations, when you go into the real world, like I said, in the private sector, with things like the code of conduct, the value system, naturally, when you are in certain organizations, certain behavior is not condoned. And if you attempt it, you will immediately get, identified and kicked out. But then, you've got others where, it becomes accepted. And unfortunately, this is where people fall by the wayside.
Okay.
Fatu, do you have any question?
Yes, I have a few, but there's one here. And the person is asking how we can fight corruption in our institutions, especially in Gambia, where businessmen are always trying to do corruption so that they can bribe public officials. Is asking what can be done in this kind of situation.
All right. The fight against corruption obviously entails multiple aspects. Corruption involves a giver and a taker. Many countries have enacted anti-corruption laws. But of course, the difference between those that have succeeded in combating corruption and those that just pay lip service to it is the enforcement. When you have very strict anti-corruption laws, it can serve as a deterrent. For instance, in the organization that I work for, there is the UK Anti-Bribery Act, which has some very, very stringent penalties, both for the institution as well as for the individual, if you are found to either participate or condone corruption. So I think those laws are important. I think governance is important, a good governance structure, so that when such behavior or such activities take place, they can immediately be identified and they can be dealt with decisively. So I think having the right laws and having strong institutions are just some of the few measures that can be taken to combat corruption.
Mm-hmm. And TAF, I know I'm not sure you want to answer questions, but there's a question right here for you, and this person is asking if TAFLA is willing to organize a forum for Gambia government officials. Hello?
Yes, Fatu,
yes, TAF. So this person is asking if TAFLA is willing to organize a forum for Gambia government officials to a leadership summit with all the lectures that they've seen so far. Like they're asking if TAFLA would be willing to do this with Gambia government.
Yeah, we are willing to, but it takes two to tango. And out of such initiatives, ideas will come up like this. And this is not the first time I've heard this question. When Dr. Karamo Sonko delivered his lecture, something like this came up. So yes, probably it's an initiative that we can take up with the public service or the Gambia government.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So just to remind our viewers, we're going to be taking a little bit more questions. So if you have your questions for Mr. Manjang, you can send them to us and we will ask them. TAF, we are, I think, about right now it's about 4:10. We are 1 hour and 10 minutes into the program. So can we take more questions now, or?
Yes, let's probably let's say another 10 minutes. And I have two questions here. One says, Mr. Manjang, how do you identify somebody as an honest person? How do you identify an honest person?
I think action speaks louder than words. If you deal with somebody, I think, a few times, you can tell whether this is somebody that is honest, somebody that you can trust. Habits, they always surface in the end. So if honesty is, a character trait that you have, in what you say, in what you do, it will always reflect. You can't hide it. So I think, action will speak louder than words.
Great. So another one says, what do you think about the sweet packs of office, as vehicles collecting your family?
Sorry, I didn't
vehicles
get
like
that
using,
question.
yeah, it says, what do you think about the suite parks of office?
Mhm.
You know, for example, using government vehicles to collect your family.
Well, again, you know, these are some of the challenges that, you know, we face when, you know, public resources are used for personal gain. I know that in some countries, like in Rwanda, for instance, you know, government vehicles, there's nothing like that concept. They decided that, you know, the vehicle would actually be given to you in the form of a loan or, you know, something that you can pay. So in that way, you have the use of the vehicle. You can you know, use it for your private use as well as for office use. But where that is not the case, and you know, the vehicle is strictly a public property, using it for private use obviously is one of those areas where, you know, it can be abused.
Yeah.
Great. Yeah. Shall
And,
I? Yeah.
Tafi, I was just going to say, he talked about avoiding Ponzi schemes, but somebody is saying in a continent like Africa, where we are, and most of the people all want to get rich quickly, it would be very difficult, the person is saying, to avoid such. So they're asking, in your opinion, what can they do?
Well, you see, Ponzi schemes really they tap into one flaw in people, and that is greed. And that is something that one should watch out for. If somebody gives you a promise that, you know, give me 500 and I will give you 5,000 in return, 10 times the value of what you've given me. And it looks very, usually is very, you know, packaged in a very attractive way. So it's tapping into that greed, all right? But if you are able to restrain yourself, which is why I say resisting temptation is one of those qualities that we need to have as an individual. It is tempting, yes. It looks very attractive. You know, somebody can even demonstrate that, look at X and Y, they did it, and, you know, they've succeeded. So why not you? And therefore you fall into the temptation, you get into it, and before you know it, you find yourself, you know, scammed out of your hard-earned money. So I think for Ponzi schemes, really, my advice to people is don't be greedy. Don't be greedy. And like I said, if something is too good to be true, remember there are very few free lunches in the world. You know, if somebody comes and gives you an offer that just looks too good to be true, probably it's not true.
Okay.
All right.
So,
you want to come in?
yes, I just have one more question, and then TAF will take it away. And this person is asking about Rwanda, and he's saying, why is Rwanda successful? Is it to do with the leader alone? If so, what can they do to sustain this positive trajectory?
Well, Rwanda's success obviously is attributed to many, many factors, but obviously leadership plays a very, very important role in that. Paul Kagame, the president of Rwanda, is a visionary. He's somebody who is very focused, very disciplined, and he has been able to get the population to go along with him on that journey. I happened to visit Rwanda some years back when I was actually CEO in Uganda, and Uganda and Rwanda share a border. So I had an opportunity to visit Rwanda. And, it's visible. The moment you get in there, first of all, the cleanliness of the city itself, Kigali, that just blows you away. And then the discipline of the people. You have in that part of the world, East Africa, you have what are called borders. These are motorcycles that people use for public transport. In Uganda, where I was, you can have 4 people riding one motorbike, no helmets. You go to Rwanda, and the discipline of only 2 people on a motorbike and every one of them wearing a helmet is absolutely enforced. So all those qualities, I think the discipline, the cleanliness, the focus, has just enabled that transformation to take place within a very short period of time. Like I said, a country that went through what Rwanda went through ordinarily should be a failed state by now. But then it's actually far ahead of many countries that did not have to go through that. So I think it's a combination of leadership, it's a combination of people also being disciplined and being able to follow the leader.
Great. Actually, my Facebook just rebooted, and I wanted to really ask, forward this question from Tunde Jones. Actually, I'll definitely call his name out. And
I think you have it here.
Can you please read it? Yeah, because here the internet
Yes,
is just rebooted.
very,
it's very important.
One.
Yeah.
Yes, and it says, Lamin, what lessons in your personal life can you share that molded your character and integrity to propel you as the regional CEO for West Africa and CEO for Nigeria for Standard Chartered Bank?
All right, thank you very much. I think the lessons are many, but I think really it basically reflects what I've said in this lecture this evening. First of all, the home. I think I grew up in a home where certain values were instilled in me. I remember my grandmother, used to say something to me when I was very young. And in Mandinka, he would say, "Kudoye modo wati, nyite yake ate watila." Literally, it means that there are people who can do certain things and get away with it. If you do, you will not get away with it. So for some reason, that instilled in me a certain sort of discipline of avoiding to do certain things, negative things, because I have this view that even though others can do it and nothing happens to them, they are okay. For me, if I do it, I think it will actually be a disaster. And then you look at the school. I happen to be one of those who were fortunate to have Father Goff as the principal of St. Augustine's High School during my time. When I went to St. Augustine's in 1976, I think Father Goff took over as the principal in 1977. And then when I left in 1983, I think shortly thereafter, he also left. So, but during that period, I'm sure for those who were of that generation, you can remember what St. Augustine High School used to be like. A school that valued meritocracy, competitive in a good way, good morals, good values. So I think again that helped in terms of molding me. I think I was also fortunate, the first job that I had actually was at the Gambia Commercial and Development Bank shortly after I left the sixth form. And I had a good boss there, again, who instilled in me the value of a good work ethic, working hard, working diligently, making sure that you deliver on your targets, being courageous to speak the truth. So like I said, it's a series of lessons, a series of experiences that have molded me over the years. And I continue to learn, I continue to grow. In fact, one of the messages I would like to leave with the young men and women is that we all have the capacity to grow. And even for those who perhaps have exhibited qualities, characters that are not desirable, the one thing about the human being is our capacity to repent and to reform. That is just truly amazing. You do have examples of people who were probably criminals, drug addicts, members of gangs, and you see them repenting, reforming, and ending up being imams or priests. That is what a human being can do. So we all have that capacity. I hope it is one that we can tap into to show that, look, even if I have made mistakes in the past, I have the capacity to change to myself and reform for the better.
Yeah, but TAF, I just have a question, and this is my question to Mr. Manjang. And I see a lot of people are writing about corruption, how when people get into office and everything starts changing and it becomes about their interest. So I'm saying in that case, do you think it is a good idea, for instance, for Africa especially, to look at people who they vote into office, at least for it to be people who are content, like for instance, people like you, people like Mustafa Njai, people who will not come to office, and the first priority would be to buy cars and houses. Would that help? Would that help curb corruption?
Obviously, getting the right people into office is important. I think, sometimes people can fall into short-term, gain. Somebody gives you a small gift or whatever, and you vote them into office, even though they are not the right type of person. Of course, you pay the price for that, because if they go in there and they are self-seeking, they're just self-serving, you pay the price for that, because you do not then get the the services or what you require. So I think it's about people looking at what is in the national interest, go beyond issues of tribe and religion and who has given me more money and stuff like that, so that you vote in the right quality of caliber of people. Then you can get the benefits. And it's no miracle. Like I said, you can always show examples where the right leadership has led to rapid transformation, has led to the cake becoming wider and bigger for everybody, and ones where it's a scramble for who can get the most in the shortest period of time. And of course, that takes everybody backwards.
TAF, over to you.
Yeah, great. Lamin, do you have any last words before I summarize?
Well, Mustafa, I think once again, it's just really to say thank you to you and to the TAF Leadership Academy. Like I said, what you have started is really very, very commendable. Change starts. It's just like when you drop a pebble in a pond, and then you see the ripples, as they widen. So I think the initiative that you've started is very laudable. I think as these young men and women, graduate from school, start going into the workplace, and having the right values and the right character, they can certainly be a catalyst for change. And I want to wish them all the best in their life journey. And I want to thank all of you for listening to me. Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Well, thank you. Thank you. That was a great one. In summarizing, let me also thank you, Mr. Manjang, for taking your valuable and very busy schedule to be here. I am not surprised, but probably most of the Gambians who are listening to you, especially the young ones, and I told you this, they wouldn't know who you are. I mean, I'm sure the next thing is they were going to Google you up, see who is this Mr. Manjang? That's the generation gap. But I think you have done justice to the topic. And I will just tell you something that I get asked quite often, because when people look at us, especially the young ones, they want to know, I mean, what is your recipe for success? What did you do that make you successful? And I'm glad that there are two things that you said. And that's the formula that I always tell them, very simple. And that is hard work and honesty equals to success. If you are hardworking and you are honest, I mean, the chances of you being successful, it's very high. So I'm glad that you said this. I mean, something else that came up is about integrity. Actually, integrity is a lecture of its own. And we're going to have one of our lecturers to deliver a lecture on integrity. That's a lecture of its own. So thank you so much. I mean, we couldn't have asked for anything more. I mean, you've really done extremely well, and this justifies our choice. We are here looking for Gambians that have worked so hard in their life, that have been tested beyond any reasonable doubt, beyond any barometer at the global level. If you notice that the 3 Gambians that we've had so far, You know, these are Gambians that you will put anywhere in the world and you will not disappoint us. As we say in Wolof, "Dole ñu ruslo." And this is this is why my slogan goes, "Ne Gambia dafa dem diakuya." Because if you have the caliber of Gambians like this, and then, you know, there are tons and tons of them who are undiscovered, you know, who will influence positively. I mean, these young ones who will be the future leaders of our country, then we can change. Whether we live long enough to see it or not, it will happen. I mean, this is how changes happen. I am glad that you used two good examples. That's the Singapore example and Rwanda. And interestingly enough, in Rwanda, even some Gambians worked there. Some Gambians were part of their development. And so therefore, we would like to thank you again. You've done extremely well. And I also want to inform you that what happens in this lecture is that the fellows will now have a one-page write-up on your lecture, on their takeaway. And we'll make this available. We'll save it on a cloud and then share the link with you. Okay. So you will go through, you know, we had about 180 or so who got connected. You know, then they will then share with you what their takeaway is. So I'm sure you'll be pleased to see how much they have consumed. So thank you very much, Lamin. And this will not be the last time that we're calling you in. We'll knock on your doors again, you know, for such lectures. Again, let me thank my co-host, Fatu Kamara, and the Fatu Network. We are part, I've been doing an excellent job in this. Just for announcement, next lecture will be in the next 2 weeks, and it will be delivered by Mrs. Oli Dibawada. Some of you who follow us online will notice that we posted that Oli Diba should have come in last week, but unfortunately she lost her mom, and also she survived COVID. So therefore, you know, she will come up with her lecture, which is on empathy, and this will be in September. We will announce the date. And for a change, we're going to have a younger lady, another Fatu, yes, but Fatu Mambure. Fatu Mambure will be the co-host on that one. To be gender balanced, we've had 3, you know, outstanding, you know, gentlemen who delivered their lectures. So we're going to have 3 ladies who are going to come in, so we don't get accused, you know, of being gender biased. So thank you so much. It has been a great lecture, and obviously it will be posted online. It will be on the Fatu Network, and anybody who wants to follow us up, you can follow us through the Fatu Network. The presentation also will be posted, you know, in our website. Well, so because a lot of people are.
I just want to say what I always say when I listen to Dr. Sonko and also Mr. Ngom and now Mr. Manjang. You know what I always tell them? I'm looking forward to this day when they will all be in Gambia to help us take Gambia to where we want to. This is what I say all the time.
Inshallah, inshallah. You know, I mean, some of them, you know, are retired. Some are on the verge of retiring, and they're not tired. You know, I'm sure they will come in and help our country as what we're doing now. You know, to move this country.
I think.
Country
hello,
forward.
sir? Okay.
Yeah.
You were out
I'm
for a bit. We can hear you. We can hear you now.
Yeah, it says my network connection, you know.
Yes.
Tunde, I have noticed that Tunde follows these programs really religiously, you know, and not only the program, but every time he comes down, you know, for Christmas, I see him, he attends TAFCON all the time. So Tunde, please get ready. We'll have to discuss with you on a topic that you deliver a lecture to these young kids. Because you see, this is what happens. I mean, it takes so many, it is said that it takes 2 to tango, but it takes more than 2, you know, to tango. So I think Tunde is quite interested in this. And I would like to call upon the elderly folks, you know, those who think that, you know, they're through their lecture, through their mentorship, they can influence positively, you know, the lives of these young kids. We'll have them on board. So I will contact you today. Get ready, Basil. We'll work on a topic. I think you seem to be very interested and you participate all the time. Now, lastly but not the least, I think Mr. Manjang, you'll be glad to know two of your colleagues that sent their compliments. One is Amina Tandur. I think you work together. You work together in
GIA. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, she sent some very nice compliments. So you see, this is just she's speaking the truth. And then secondly is Aminata Rose Yunsin, that you work together in Stand Chat.
Indeed,
so this is what this forum does. It opens up, to Gambians at large and even non-Gambians. When we first started Fatu, I think we had about under 200 who were connected, but you can see going to the end now, I think on Facebook Live, over 260 something are now connected. And I'm sure they don't want this to end. But, whatever has a beginning, has an end. So on that note, thank you very much. A big thank you to our honorable lecturer, Mr. Lamin Manjang, Fatu, my co-host, the TAFLA fellows, and all of you who are out there, participated one way or the other in this lecture. So until we see again for our next lecture, which is with Mrs. Olidiba Wada on empathy, and being co-hosted, with Fatu Mambure. Yeah, we'll see you. Have a very blessed Tamharet, and stay safe, from COVID-19. God bless you all.
Thank you. Thank you very much, TAF. Thank you very much, Fatu.
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you, everyone. And we'll see you again next time.
TAF Africa Global brings you exquisite yet affordable state-of-the-art commercial rental spaces available at Madiba Mall, located at the TAF Brewfood Gardens. These commercial spaces comes with facilities such as 24-hour security, standby backup generator, air-conditioned spaces, conference room and personal cash power meters. If you are looking for a spacious and suitable business environment, then the commercial rental spaces are made for you. This is exactly what you are looking for. Commercial spaces are limited, so rush now and rent a space with us today. For more information, contact 733-3363, 733-3363, or email at info@tafafricaglobal.com. Or better still, visit our website at www.tafafricaglobal.com.